Welcome to the Shenandoah Valley Partnership Cooking Show, which you know by now is not cooking today. I'm Jay Langston. I oftentimes forget to introduce myself, but we're excited to be here at Dynamic Aviation today, and we look forward to entertaining you with some history of this company, building a plane, talking about a phenomenal program that Dynamic Aviation has developed, and then give you a little bit of history of what is surrounding us in this environment. So I hope you have your kits ready. I hope you enjoyed the goodies that we sent along with the kits, and we're going to get started. Michael.
Yes.
I'd like to introduce Michael Stolzfus. Michael is the president and CEO of Dynamic Aviation, probably a company you may not heard of, but really has a worldwide reach. Second generation with the company. And Michael, why don't you give a background of Dynamic and what you do here?
Thank you, Jay. Welcome everyone to Dynamic. Welcome everyone to the Shenandoah Valley. I'm a native of the valley, and you'll hear a little bit of the history. We travel a lot, and I happen to think or believe or experience that the Shenandoah Valley is one of the most beautiful places on the planet, but I'll touch that later.
And I didn't pay him for that, by the way.
But it's true. It's true. So I'm third generation aviation, second generation this business. My dad grew up in southeast Pennsylvania, literally with airplanes in his backyard. There's a T6, a Beech 18. There would have been T6s and Beech 18s in his backyard. In 1967, he moved from southeast PA to Harrisonburg to go to Eastern Mennonite College, at the time University now. And he and his twin brother started Dynamic as a way simply to put themselves through school. They were very entrepreneurial. They bought an airplane sight unseen, got a loan in Harrisonburg, and then sold the airplane, and that was essentially the startup capital for the business. They then were kind of, you could think of as how am I going to pay for the next meal? And so therefore, if you do that, you're going to be a scrap dealer, you're going to be whatever it takes. And so they bought scrap from the DRMO, which is with the Air Force. And these were lots of scrap that had parts in them. They would, in the afternoon, drive down to, Fort Rucker or Pope, whatever, and look at these lots, and they would decide what they were going to bid. They would then, this is while they're in school, bring them home, pull the parts out, and build training aids for VOTEC schools. And that's how they started. It's basically how they put food on the table, and it's how they paid for their college. So moving forward, there's a Beech 18 behind us here, and my dad always had this idea that he wanted to operate airplanes around the world. This was the first airplane we bought. We bought it in 1970, and what often happens at Dynamic is we will buy an airplane and it'll be years before we generate revenue. This airplane was the first airplane that we generated revenue with as a flight operation in 1981. Fast forward through the 80s, if any of you all know, in the Northeast there was a lot of gypsy moth problems with defoliating trees. We had a lot of work with that and mosquitoes, and then through the 90s we ended up with our first contract, a lot of contracts throughout the states. And what we do, by the way,
explain to them what.
What we do, essentially what we do, for those of you who, as we were talking earlier, for those of you who spend a lot more time up here, we solve big problems with airplanes. For those of you who spend more time here, we try to change the world one person at an airplane with airplanes. Now, what does that mean? It is a modification-centric model. So we sell flight services by the flight hour, we lease airplanes, we sell man hours. Those are the things that we sell. Who we sell to, defense, multiple civil, like the Department of Agriculture, Interior, Commerce, NASA, so on and so forth. And then we also sell to some aerospace. And essentially what we're doing is they will have a problem. They will have something that they need mounted to the airplane, a sensor, it could be a machine, whatever, dropping sterile flies, a whole various things. We will mount that here at Bridgewater in what we call Tech Ops. We will mod the airplane, and then we will take the airplane and co-locate it with our customer literally anywhere in the world, with pilots, with mechanics, with spares, and aircraft support, and we will fly missions in support of that problem for as long as they wish. It can be anywhere from 1 day to decades. Our longest serving contract is 30 years in Southern California. So we operate 140 airplanes. We have about 550 employees. We operate from 25 locations in 10 countries, and we have a phenomenal team. We think of ourselves, if you say, well, that's what we do, if you think about who are we, up here we're basically a bunch of aviation professionals. Here, we're a band of brothers, sisters, and friends that care for one another and care for our customers. So again, two different ways to look at it. That's the history.
You have had quite a bit of growth too over time, and you just explained to our audience, you know, in terms of how you started and kind of the facilities you have here now. You mentioned the number of planes. I think that is staggering in and of itself, I think. But the various things that you do, for example, you were talking about in Southern California, you were very engaged with sort of the operation standpoint of last year when they had all of the forest fires, right? You're doing pest control in a way.
We are. Yeah, so the missions that we serve, we think of them as capabilities. Do you want me to talk about the facility first or talk about the capabilities first?
It's your place.
Well, let's talk about the facility first. So there's pretty important facility discussion here. So when my mom and dad bought the airport in '74, we had 8,000 square feet. We have about 400,000 square feet at the moment. And in plan, which I expect we'll build in the next 24 months, is another 60,000 square feet. In 2002, we had this strong sense that there would be a lot of growth. And this is this local kind of economic development story. We were not sure whether the growth was going to occur, but we were going to get ready. And so we went to Hagerstown, went to Manassas, and figured out what the tax rates were, figured out what the tax rates were, and really tried to get a sense of the culture. Is that a place where we wanted to grow? And ultimately, what we figured out was we went and did a bunch of things here to kind of solve some tax issues. And we figured out that we love the Valley and we just want to grow here in the Valley. And the reasons why, number one is, the Valley is, we have an incredible work ethic here. And essentially a sub part of the work ethic is people essentially do what they say they're going to do. The second thing, and they're very technical, they're technical by nature because of the agrarian roots. The second thing is that we have a very strong pro-business climate. It is not that way in every local political jurisdiction, but it's what we have here, and that was a huge part of the reason why we said, no, we're going to grow here. The third thing then was that it's simply a beautiful place to live. And we've started a bunch of operations in various places, and we decided that we will co-locate with our customers away from here, but we will not build the core away from here. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the capabilities. And so you kind of divide it up. You'll see an airplane later that was my grandfather's 1929 Travel Air that he modified. Remember, everything that we do is modification centric. And by the way, most of what we do is federal government. Defense is our largest. My grandfather started modifying airplanes in 1936. Our first federal government contract with the Army Air Corps was in 1942. Wow. So we've got these decades and generations of this. And so when you think about the capabilities that we have, it started with crop dusting. And so we ended up doing anytime the Department of Agriculture would have any need for any modified airplane, we would go and do the work. And so we release sterile flies. We do fire management where we lead tankers over fires. We do oil spill response. We're building 3 737s, literally as we speak, as oil spill response airplanes, 4,250 gallons per airplane of spray for the oil spills. So we then do oral rabies vaccine, where we release oral rabies vaccine out of an airplane, and it basically takes care of rabies. We then do a whole series of what we call airborne data acquisition, which is where we put sensors in airplanes, we collect data. Done a lot for the USDA, Commerce, NOAA, various things. And then from that, we got into the defense work, and we do what's called ISR. We gather intelligence via surveillance and reconnaissance. And it's primarily against the IED, which is the improvised explosive device. That's kind of the capabilities, and essentially any federal government customer that has a need for a modified airplane, we want to talk to.
You've just given me a perfect segue into the next thing I want to ask you about, which is sort of the crux of the program here. But with all of this growth and all of this need and all of the technical capabilities, you're very passionate about growing the workforce. Talk about what we're going to spend the next part of our program doing, the NextGen Aviators program.
Okay, so you know, my grandfather basically trained his own pilots, trained his own mechanics. It goes back that far. And so when my dad and my uncle were here, they would hire buddies of theirs from college and teach them how to be mechanics and teach them how to smelt aluminum and do all this stuff. So our DNA is not going out and finding folks that, our DNA is finding young people who have a deep interest in growing in the aviation space, regardless of whether it's flying or whether it's bending and turning wrenches on airplanes or whether it's engineering or any of the other support. And so in 2000, so we've been hiring mechanics for 50 years, 55 years. I mean, in the business, we've been flying as a family almost 90 years.
Right.
And so in 2016, we have never had a problem finding mechanics. And in 2016, that started to shift. And by 2019, at our peak, we had 115 contractors on the property, 115 mechanic contractors on the property. We couldn't find mechanics. And so he said, okay, enough's enough. The Band-Aid approach is not working. We have to have a 20-year view, take the long view. And so what was born out of that was creating NextGen Aviators as a way to connect to middle schoolers and high schoolers to offer them the opportunity, they can't be what they can't see, to offer them the opportunity to see something that they might have been created for. So that's it.
Yep. And with that vision, that gives a perfect segue into our next guest. And I know that you've got some things to do, but you're going to stick around,
I'm going to stick
right?
around. I'm going to show some airplanes.
We're going to talk about what NextGen does.
Perfect.
And then actually go through some of the exercises. So Kayla, please join us.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to have Michael back on here in just a minute. Welcome back. I'm glad to be here. I want to introduce Kayla Dugan. She is the operations supervisor for NextGen. She has been with it essentially from the beginning, and I've got to prompt a couple of personal things here. She is also a pilot, certified multi-engine. She graduated college with all of this. Yes, I'm jealous and envious and all of those things. But she has a passion for this, and I want you to explain what NextGen is. Okay, Michael had this vision for what he is trying to do, not only for Dynamic, but at a greater scale for manufacturing and how we teach this. I'm going to let you take it away with what NextGen is, what you do, and then we're actually going to do some of the stuff. And make sure you have your kits.
Yes, so please have your kits ready so when we get to that, we'll be set. So NextGen Aviators is an immersive and interactive experience that is for middle and high schoolers. We bring it to them at their local airport, so that's what makes us really unique. So this is mobile. We operate out of two 53-foot trailers. One of those trailers houses 12 of our flight simulators that each student has the opportunity to fly. And then the other one houses all of these stations that you see in front of us.
Yeah.
So,
and the workstations is part of what all of the students get to do.
Absolutely. Right. So all of these workstations represent different career paths within aviation. And so what we're trying to do is allow the students not only to just hear about what these career opportunities are, but to actually get to see and have hands-on, kind of figure out what they gravitate towards naturally and what they're good at. So we just try to let them have what we call a defining moment in aviation. And those of us in aviation or in careers that we absolutely love have all had that moment. And so we're trying to provide that for students all over Virginia.
let's go over to the first workstation and you explain sort of what we're doing with that, what you're doing with that is what I should say. So
Absolutely.
I'll follow you.
All right. So we're going to come right over here.
Yep.
This is our wind tunnel that was built in-house. This is part of our aerodynamic station where we teach the kids just some of the fundamentals about how do airplanes actually fly. So with this wind tunnel, as you can see, we have different pieces that we can insert into the wind tunnel and look at the path of the air over the wings, make the little airplane fly, and then create some drag on that airplane or some thrust and lift. And so.
And you think about this, and this is something that we learned some of the science in the school class, but yet people don't really associate all of these parts with the actual aviation, with the plane itself.
Exactly. So it's a little bit more of a fun way to learn some of these principles that might not make sense until you can see it in action.
Yep.
So,
okay. Back up.
And so this is our CAD station. So we like to highlight engineering. And so what we're doing with this is we give them a set of instructions. And so with these instructions, they begin in a CAD program that we use to build airplane parts. So they're building flight surfaces, so wings, tail pieces of this airplane. They can kind of flesh it out depending on how much time they have, the detail that they want to add to it. And so we teach them that, you know, they would create this drawing in this CAD program, and then it would be sent to a CNC machine where a piece could get cut out. And so we kind of try to tie all of these different career paths together. It's not just one career path, but you can kind of see the whole vision of how all of these things relate back to building airplanes or flying airplanes.
Okay. Speaking of building airplanes, now's the immersive part. Is that a word? I don't know. But we're the experiential part of the program. We're going to now build the plane. Kayla's going to instruct me how to build the plane.
All right. So
she's probably going to do it too, so we have at least one plane that's going to be done.
We can both do it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And you have your recipe card. You notice we made one a little larger so that I could read it here. So what do we tell the audience to do first?
So the first thing we're going to do is pick up your NextGen flyer kit, and we are going to twist out all of the pieces. So if you put your hand on each of the pieces, you can see there's little metal tabs holding it in. If you twist them around, the pieces should just fall out. So go ahead.
Well, of course, now I'm already having problems. Okay.
Well, if you have any other tips, I just twist it like
you just
front
twist it like that,
back.
front and back,
Yep.
and it falls
And it
right
should
out.
fall right out. There you go.
Do them all?
Yep, go ahead and do them all. That'll make the next steps easier for us.
Oh, this is actually working now. I probably would not have done it this way if I were at home doing it myself. But then that's probably the reason it wouldn't have looked like a plane at the end of it as well. Okay.
The fun of
Toss
this
this away.
is you can bend them different ways and get different designs though. So it'll all work out.
Okay.
So the next thing we're going to do is take our horizontal stabilizers or our tail pieces. Those are the two pieces, the smaller of the two, and they do not have any words cut out of them. So we're going to take those.
Okay, so the solid blanks.
The solid blanks. And what we're going to do is you guys should have a bending block. You should have a wooden bending block that was in your kit. You're going to take that. There should be a slit in it. You're going to make sure that the holes are on the bottom. We're going to slip those into the bending block.
I'm going to do these up here so that you get a good view of this, and it's supposed to just slip right in, correct?
Yep.
All the way down.
All the way down.
Okay.
All right, so now that the pieces are in the bending block, the next thing we're going to do is take your thumbs.
Yep.
You're going to put them at the base.
bottom.
At the base. You can do it either side, but it's easier to push them away from you. And so now you're going to push them all the way over. So just go ahead and put some force. They should be bent about 90 degrees.
Okay. Can you pound on it a little?
Yeah, that works.
All right. You need a hammer. You know, we need really.
Yeah.
Need a hammer. Hammer's always good for anything when you're building something.
The 11-year-olds don't need a hammer.
Yeah, I'm sure the 11-year-old does not need a hammer. Neither does this adult, but that generally never stops me.
and then you can just shimmy them out of the bending blocks. For you guys, it should be a little bit easier.
Here. All right, welcome back. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Thank heavens, though, we had one, because I got my thumb caught between the two stabilizers in here. So now I have both stabilizers. And yes, she was laughing.
It's a fun experience.
Hey, it's an experience.
All right, so now we should have both of our tail pieces that are bent, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bend our wing pieces.
Okay.
And so,
and I bet these have to go a particular way.
They do. So you can see the cutouts. They say, one says next, one says gen. So you're going to take the one that says next. You're going to have the end facing up. Okay.
Okay.
And you're going to put it on the left side of your bending block. So the end should be up facing you.
Okay. Curve side out or curve side in?
So the curved side should be on the inside. Yep.
Got it. So I'm going to put it there. Okay.
Okay. And then you're going to take your gen piece, and so the end should be up on this as well. And so what we're going to do is have the rounded piece
Radius
on the
side
inside
facing that one.
Yes, so both of the curves should be facing in.
Got it.
Make sure.
Curves facing in.
Yeah.
Got that.
Sorry, my bending block is, there we go.
Being difficult.
All right, so now we're going to do the same process to bend these. Put your thumbs on the bottom.
Okay, I've got mine just like yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And then go forward.
Yep, go for it. So you're just going to bend them 90 degrees. You can do one at a time if you need to.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Just got, have to be serious about it.
So now we'll just shimmy these out for our bending blocks.
If I can get this one out.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, so now we should have all of our pieces bent.
Got it.
All right, so the next step, we're going to take our Cleco pliers. That is this one right here. And you guys should each have a couple of Clecos. We're going to take our Cleco out, so I'm going to take it out of the holder and then show you how to use it. So you guys, yep, you can go ahead and do that if you want. On your Cleco, you should see a little lip around the outside of it. And then on your Cleco pliers, you should see there's a little groove inside of here where that lip should fit right in on top of it.
Got it.
Yep, just like that. And then when you squeeze, the black portion should compress.
Got it.
Okay, so just remember that. We're gonna
put that aside.
Yep, just for a second.
Okay.
So now we're gonna pick up the fuselage of our airplane. Yep, we're gonna take the two tail pieces, so our two horizontal stabilizers. And on the back of the tail, you should see two holes, or on the back of the empennage, you should see two holes. And so we're going to line up the holes on our horizontal stabilizers with the holes. So you should have a horizontal stabilizer on each.
Got it.
On each side of that.
And here. And so.
Yep, just like that. So you have the holes all lined up.
Well, I've got one lined up.
Okay, that's all we need, just one.
Just so. I bet this is where we get the Cleco and put it through.
Yep, so you have to squeeze on those Cleco pliers with the Cleco inside of it so that it gets
that can be seen,
small enough.
Yep.
Yep.
And seat it all the way down.
Yep, and then when you let go, it should hold. Yep. And then
oh, cool. I want these. Sorry.
So now you should be able to twist the tail back into place.
Yep.
So make sure that the hole's lined up.
And the hole's lined up.
There we go. Perfect. So now you guys should each have 4 rivets. So I'm going to give you this one. No, you're good.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take, you can see there's a stem, and on your IKEA instructions, you should be able to see it labels the stem and the head.
She had fun with doing the IKEA-esque, instructions.
Oh, see? Okay, so, don't do what Jay just did. Wrong side. So the fatter side, the short fat side, is going to go.
I'm not supposed to be following instructions.
It's going to go through the hole, okay? The stem should be outside of it. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
No. Other way. like this. So this is the head portion, and then the stem is what's the longer, skinnier portion. So just like that.
I knew that.
All right, so now what we're gonna do, so that is called a rivet, and this is what's going to hold the pieces of our metal together. And we are going to take our hand puller, so this is our hand rivet puller, and so you have to open it up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna put this front portion over the stem, so put the stem right through the hole of that.
Yep.
And I have weak muscles, so I'm gonna have to pull it twice, but you're just gonna pull it once or twice. Oh, I did it once.
Yeah.
There I go.
Yeah, that was because of my inspiration.
Yes.
When I did it.
So,
and I've actually done this before, and I was still doing it wrong. Never mind.
so now you should have one rivet in place and your cleco. Now we're going to remove that cleco.
Okay.
So you're gonna use the pliers again, put it right under that lip, squeeze it and pull it out. Yep, just like that, and we can leave it because we'll use it again in a minute.
Oh no, I'm putting the tool back where it belongs.
That works too.
Okay.
All right, now take your next rivet. We're going to put that into the second hole in the tail.
Do you want it from the other side? And I need
You can do it either side. Here, I'll put these in the middle.
Thank
There
you.
you go. Yep. So just remember the shorter, thicker part goes through the hole.
Through the hole.
Yep.
And I'm going to do it from the other side so that it is mirror image.
That works. Either way is fine. And we're
Symmetry.
just going to squeeze. Whoa. There we go. All right, so now our tail's complete. Perfect. You could have done them either high tail, low tail, either way.
Oh, that's right.
We both did ours high.
Yeah, we both did ours high. Little bit lower there. Okay.
All right, so now we're going to take the wings and we are going to cleco them on just like we did with the tail. So next, you can have it facing either way you want, if you want it like this, or if you want the next facing you to read. That's how we usually do it. So it's on our left side and it's facing us, we read it that way.
Because you got the radius wing going into the wind, right?
Yes.
Let's see. Okay. I think she's
Aerodynamics, right? No, you're right.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to line those up as best as you can. Or if you have a hard time lining it up with the cleco, what you can do is you can stack it so you can actually squeeze your cleco, put it on, and just kind of stack it. Sometimes this is what we have the kids do at the event if they're having a rough time holding on to it.
Yep. And because I don't want to let go of this, I'm going to see if I can get another one and just leave that one on the table. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
And then remember, just line those holes back up.
My wings are a little wonky.
All right, so, can't get the rivet to work. Okay. So if you're having a hard time with the rivet, what we're going to do, sometimes you have to squeeze it twice because it's a little bit difficult to get that stem off. So I'll show you one without it being in the metal. So what we're gonna do is so you're gonna have the long portion, you're gonna stick that into the hole of the rivet pullers.
I see what you're doing, yeah. Okay.
And then if you pull it once and it doesn't go, and it kind of bends it maybe a little bit, but you still have the stem on it, just squeeze it one more time really hard with all of your might. You should hear it pop. You might have to squeeze it a couple of times. And so then it should pop and you should have it secured to your airplane. And then once you're done, release the pressure on the rivet pullers. You're gonna let that stem fall back out. So if you can't get the stem in, make sure there's not one stuck inside your rivet puller.
Got it.
All right.
Y'all following that? Okay.
All right. So back to the wings. Make sure that the holes are all lined up on that. And actually, this is a good example. I did it in the wrong one. So we're going to move it up. So it should be the two forwardmost.
Oh, let me make sure. Okay,
on
two
your-
forwardmost holes. Okay, so
Yep, you
yes.
did it right.
Yeah.
I was stacking mine and did
You
it
were
in the wrong
talking,
one.
and
I
you were
was
having to pay
talking.
attention to the audience. I was concentrating on trying to put the wings on.
All right, so now, that's why we make sure it's lined up ahead of time, right?
Yep.
All right, so now we're gonna put a rivet through those holes again. just like we did with the tail. Yep, you've got yours already. And then you can just go ahead and pull that.
And have to make sure you seat the rivet really well, because I almost just messed up. It was not all the way down on the metal surface.
So there's two ways you can do it. You can either lay your rivet inside the holes like this, so you can push it in and then put the rivet puller on top of it and then pull it, or you can take your rivet puller, put the stem in first.
Got it.
And hold it. And then you're gonna make sure, just like Jay said, you get it all the way through, it's up against the metal. Yep, and just pull it till you hear it pop. That's why we call them pop rivets. Yep, and then we're going to go ahead and we're gonna take out the second cleco that we had. So remember, you can't just pull it out, you have to squeeze, pull it, and then we can put ours back. And then we're just gonna do one more rivet. We're almost done. So one more rivet in that last slot for your wings.
So I'm gonna do it the way Kayla suggested. This time, put it through.
Then it sits all the way down.
And then it sits all the way down so that you don't make a mistake. Put the pliers over it. Pop rivet. Pliers are me and my older vision. There we go.
Perfect. All right. Now we have our NextGen flyer that is complete. Each student that goes through our program gets to build one of these. So we use sheet metal on most of the airplanes that you see in here. There's a couple that use fabric, but sheet metal is what covers your airplane. And
aside from this being fun, you actually bring out now sort of the technical part of why this is important for the kids to understand. Is because you're not welding most stuff on an airplane. I mean, there is some, yes, but it's much higher level certification welding. But talk through, you know, how the kids are learning what we just did and how this applies to the planes.
Absolutely.
Because this is they're learning without understanding that this is a very fundamental aspect of the technical skill sets required.
Right. So that actually, we talked about how we try to make all of the stations within NextGen relate to each other. So the students would come through, they would get to build a NextGen flyer. We would teach them about all of the tooling, what rivets are called, just like we told you guys. And then, so after this station, they would be able to do a pre-flight with one of our pilots. And so as they're looking at that airplane, we point out all of the things on the airplane that you know, are important, things that they've learned little portions of, and try to tie it all together as they actually get to see the plane. So as you look at some of the airplanes, you'll see it looks like little tiny dots, mostly under the paint. And so some of the kids will be like, what are those? And we're like, that's actually a rivet. How many rivets do you think are on this airplane? That's what's holding your airplane together, just like on your little NextGen flyer.
And thousands and thousands, right?
Yep. I asked one of our mechanics about the DC-3. How many rivets do you think are on our DC-3? He said somewhere close to about 3 million. So that's a lot of work. You think we just did 4, and they use different types of riveting.
Okay, and for you people who may not be familiar with the DC-3, it's an older plane. You're going to see a beautiful example of one here shortly. But it was made in the late 30s and 40s, and some of them are still flying to this day. But that was important. Yeah. And into a lot of that, you still see this on your airliners.
Yeah, so we use lots of sheet metal within aviation, but then, you know, there's also other trades that use sheet metal and bending the sheet metal. You think of HVAC. You also think of the automotive industry. There's plenty of applications where people either don't realize, hey, this technical skill that I have in aviation either translates to something else, or vice versa. You know, people don't realize, hey, I can work on an air conditioner, but I could also go work on sheet metal and put that on airplanes.
And that is sort of a great segue. Thank you for our next workstation, because what Kayla just talked about is what they are basically getting the kids to do without realizing that these are a lot of the fundamental skills. So let's go to, do you call this the avionics
Yes.
one? Okay.
So our avionics and electronics. This is our avionics board. And so this board is what we use to teach kids just basics about electronics. And so within aviation, you think about the cockpit and all of the instrumentation, the lights on your airplane. There's plenty of things that use electricity to work in our airplanes. And so what we do is we give them a basic schematic to read. We teach them how to read the schematic, just kind of like you would a maze. And we actually have them, we have all of these wires numbered. They would look at their schematic, they would match it up to the wires that we have here, and they would connect it at each of these points where the wires are supposed to go. And then we have them flip it on. So we get to talk a little bit about parallels and series circuits, so different types of circuiting. And then, you know, hey, we actually have this looks like a runway. So with the extra time that we have, we get to talk about the runway environment. What are these lights on the runway?
Yeah.
Why are they used? What do the different lights mean? And so we already talked a little bit about how this works in aviation in our airplanes. You can also do electronics and avionics and work on simulators, so flight simulators. And then you think about just almost every other industry that electronics or avionics and
which is
electricity
going
is used.
to everything now. And what you can't see on the table is, this is a layout of a runway, an airport, with the taxiways, the runway, and so forth. And, you know, it's fascinating.
Yeah. So that's what we teach them here. They have a lot of fun with it because, you know, it's kind of like a challenge, or what we have groups of kids on either side, and so they like to race each other. But then seeing their faces as they feel like they've accomplished something when they make it all light up is lots of fun.
Yeah.
So
let's go to the last station here.
So this is another portion that we usually do with our aerodynamics. Just like we talked about the wind tunnel, this is the power plant portion of that. So this is a PT6 engine, and we've already talked about, we let the kids play around in a flight simulator, but then after the flight simulator, we take them on a flight. And so we take them on a flight in one of our King Air 90s. A lot of students have never been on an airplane before, so it's a lot of fun just to hear their experiences, and it's a different type of flying experience because they actually get to put on a headset, talk to the pilots, listen to the pilots as they're flying. And so this PT6 engine is the same type of engine that would be on the King Air 90 that they get to go fly in. And so we teach them just the basics of, you know, how does this engine work? What is it doing? And so we kind of tie that in with the aerodynamics and just how the airplane flies. And then they get to see pieces of that throughout the flight simulator as they're using the throttles to fly the airplane. And so this is just another portion. We teach them, you know, the different stages that the engine goes through. And the kids that are really mechanically inclined absolutely love getting to see that. We open the side of the airplane so they can see the engine on the actual airplane, but then to see it cut open and see how it's actually working is really neat for them.
That's great.
Yeah.
And let's go back to the middle station.
All right.
There, Kayla, and we'll wrap this up because I want to ask you. Okay, you're talking about a number of the students that you have through, but let's talk about the real number. You know, you have all of these kids. You've basically started this program in earnest. What, in the fall of last year, early fall of last year? How many students have you had come through?
We have had 3,000 students come through the program, and we had about 8,000 scheduled, but because of COVID stuff with their schools, we've rescheduled the rest of them for the spring semester. So we've already served 3,000 students just last fall, and kind of what has come of that. A lot of these schools, students and teachers have gotten really excited about being able to use aviation and some of the applications of all of this in their classrooms that they didn't realize that they could do before. And so with the help of others in our community. We've been able to introduce them to different programs, and it's been really incredible. We have had one technical school that is standing up an aviation maintenance program
Yep.
because they got excited through NextGen. We've had 3 high school teachers that have created aviation-centric classes for their high schoolers to go through, start learning a little bit more in depth after the NextGen experience about these different sections and you know, how they can use that. And then we've also had one middle school teacher who went out, found grant money for his school, and ended up building 10 flight simulators for his students to use in the classroom. So just the impact that this has had already here in the Valley has been extraordinary, and we're excited to continue to share it.
And from an economic developer's perspective, the vision and the ability to excite young people with career path opportunities is just golden for us. And it's also someone that they can relate to, not me, which is what 95% of the aviation world, but older white males. It's changing, and you are the face of that for many of our students here, which I think is really important.
It's changing, but anyone can inspire anyone else. And I always say, I felt really blessed growing up. I had parents that told me, you can do whatever you put your mind to, but not every student has that. And so just for you or me to, you know, come alongside these students throughout the event and say, hey, you can do this, and just kind of empower them, you know, make them feel some ownership and some excitement for the things that they can accomplish, then
it really is.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, it does make a difference, and it's really a program that we're so excited about because of the work that Michael has done, the work that Shane is off camera right now, but he is the development officer for this program. And Kayla here, what they are doing is this is really gaining traction beyond just the Shenandoah Valley footprint. You've got some major endorsements, you've gotten some grant money, you've gotten a major airline, which I will not mention, who is very interested in this program, and as actually Shane shared with me, will be visiting in the spring sometime. And you know, I'm not going to reveal who it is, but there are only so many of the major airlines here, so it's a great story. So we're excited about this. We are helping in any way possible from an economic development standpoint to shepherd our school administrators, our businesses here in this region, because you heard Kayla talking about it. You know, you can see this. The riveting, it applies to a number of different trades. The electronics portion of that, it applies to a lot of the different trades. So we're getting other businesses in the region who are not directly involved in aviation or not at all, and they're excited in the program. And
absolutely.
So we're very excited about that. They understand that, you know, aviation still has a mystique about it, that it draws people to it, but some of the foundational work that you're doing applies to so many different sectors.
It does, and for a lot of students, aviation feels really untouchable. It doesn't feel attainable for them because they don't get to interact with it. You know, a lot of them don't have awesome hangars like this to come to. And so for many students, either they've never been to an airport or their interaction is just, you know, from the terminal, they get to see the airplane outside or flying 30,000 feet above them, but they don't get to interact with it. And so for us to just be able to bring this to them at no cost to the students or to the schools, it just has a huge impact. They get the hands-on, they get to touch it, it gets to feel, you know, like, hey, I can do this. And
it's real.
It's real.
It becomes real, and I think that's what's so important. Kayla, thank you so much. Really appreciate what you do for us, for Dynamic Aviation, and what it's doing for both the kids and their parents too about opening up career opportunities, because we're talking fabricators, maintenance, avionics, flight simulator trainers, pilots, engineers, pilot here. So thank you.
Thank you
very much, and thanks for allowing me to do this successfully.
No problem.
Next, I will want to introduce Heather Ream, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Shenandoah Airport.
Hello.
Hi, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have Heather on. We are so fortunate that we're a rural region that has a commercial airport. Heather is here to talk about some of the things that are going on, both during the pandemic. We've actually had a pretty good story there, but some of the other things that are going on as well. So Heather, I'm gonna just let you take it away.
Okay. Well, first of all, a little bit about the Shenandoah Valley Airport. We're located about 15 minutes from Dynamic Aviation. We are kind of right in between the cities of Stanton and Harrisonburg, conveniently located to the areas of Lexington, Waynesboro, even a little bit over the mountain into Crozet, all the way up to Shenandoah County. We have quite a large service area. We do have commercial air service at Shenandoah Valley Airport. We have United with SkyWest as their regional airline partner. We have flights from Shenandoah to Washington Dulles, and Chicago O'Hare daily. And really from there you can get to pretty much anywhere in that you want to go.
That's where
Domestic,
I like
international.
Yeah, that's what I like to say. We're essentially one stop away from the rest of the world.
That's
through
absolutely
Chicago
correct.
and Dulles.
Yeah, our air service has been extremely reliable. We've been really fortunate to work with United and SkyWest for the past, since 2018. And so we have commercial air service. We also have a very thriving private and corporate side of our business where we serve companies that are located either based here or coming to visit their operations in the Shenandoah Valley. Very nice facilities. There's meeting location available if you need to have a quick meeting when you fly in, that type of thing. So yeah, we kind of serve two totally different audiences. And we have some training at the airport as well. In addition to the wonderful programs at Dynamic, we have a partnership with Blue Ridge Community College.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, so they have an aviation maintenance technology program that I believe Dynamic actually worked with them to start. They're based there. We have a flight school. We have all kinds of different things at the airport too. We work a lot together in partnership.
Yep. You also have some things that are going around that are not flight-based, but still important both to the airport and to the community at large. You want to talk about sort of the tech park? You want to talk about?
Yes. So a really exciting project we have going on right now is on the north end of our complex. We're calling it our Aviation Technology Park. We have multiple sites ready. We just finished the site prep for those. We're getting ready to start a project for utilities, for the sewer, water, internet. All of that will be completely ready in those locations. The airport itself, we are building 2 hangars, hopefully breaking ground this fall on those. They're going to be about 14,000 square feet. One of them is spoken for various companies locally, and then we have one that will have space available. And then we have a private company locally that is building a hangar. They've committed to do that as well. So, but there's space available for further growth for aviation-related businesses. And then there's some adjacent properties also to the airport for aviation-related businesses too. So we're ready to grow.
And are growing. That is the good point, is because we have some of the programs, we have a lot of community involvement. Because of the size of both our region and of the airport, we serve on boards together, they serve on my board, I serve on others, and we're all integrated in that. And so it's a great story of how people have come together, and then the opportunity about looking at growing the aviation industry in proximity to the airport, which is only 3 miles off the interstate. I'll leave that
Very centrally located.
Very centrally located, that's right. And one stop away from the world, if you didn't hear me say that earlier. So just wanted to give an update, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate Dynamic having us too.
Yep, we're very pleased to be here. All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
We are going to wrap up our program now, but in this wrap up, I'm going to be joining, Michael Stolzfus. Michael is coming back on camera. We thought we couldn't let it get away if we didn't showcase what is in this hangar alone. So Michael, and he's very proud of this. I am, passionate about this stuff as well. So I'm a kid in a candy shop, and so to speak. So let's talk about what you have in the hangar. And this is a passion for us in terms of from the community standpoint as well. So Michael, let's walk on over, and you can talk about what you're going to show our audience.
Thank you, Jay. So of the 140 airplanes that we own, they're primarily turboprops and jets, with the exception of what we have here in what we call Hangar F. And that is a vintage fleet. What you see behind me is a 1929 Travel Air. My grandfather bought the airplane in 1944, converted it into a crop duster. And then flew it as a crop duster until 52. He had like 3,000 hours in the airplane.
Oh my gosh.
Sold it to a guy in Conway, Arkansas, 50 years, 80 years later, 75 years later. His grandson calls us and says, my grandfather told me that if I ever sell the airplane, get a hold of the Stolzfus brothers. That would be my dad or my uncle. And fortunately, we are more prominent Stolzfus in aviation than my uncle, so we got the airplane. Now,
hold on, I think that they've got a mic problem.
Okay.
And we're going to give you another mic. We're ready? Okay.
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah,
so that
moving
was
on.
So the beauty. There's a lot of history here in Hangar F. That would be my grandfather's kind of the airplane that he really began to build his business with, and then here is a 1957 E-18 Beech 18 built by Beechcraft. Really a classic in so many ways. I've got about 2,000 hours in Beech 18s. It's a phenomenal airplane, and flown it all over the U.S. So
and this was, as I understand, sort of the corporate aircraft.
So what? Yes,
in
exactly,
50s and 60s and on. It was
so 50s and 60s. This was basically the predecessor to the King Air from Beechcraft. Was the Beech 18, and then it basically became a freight dog in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Freight dog meaning an airplane that holds freight.
Oh, right.
So
yes.
sorry,
okay.
that was a okay. So. Let's see. Next is a North America AT6. My grandfather bought some T6s in the 40s, and my uncle and my dad both got their private pilot license in a T6.
Trainer.
And it's a trainer, but it's like nobody gets their private. You know much about aviation. Nobody gets their private pilot license in a T6.
In a T6. Okay.
So Dad bought it. He loved to fly the airplane. The next airplane in the corner, which you may be able to see, not sure, and that is okay. Anyway, it's a Stearman.
Which is a biplane.
Yeah, so it's a Boeing Stearman. My grandfather bought and sold over 100 Stearmans, and the fun story is that my dad took my mom and did 17 consecutive loops. They got on the ground. My dad goes to, he didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, let's do it again.
Do it again.
Okay, so this is a Beech 18 that my dad bought a number of years ago. It's really a beautiful Beech 18.
And I've got to echo what Michael just said. I have been fortunate to fly in this one as well, and it is a beautiful experience to be in this plane.
Yeah, so if any of you guys decide to come to the Valley, and first of all, I would almost say this kind of on behalf of Jay and on behalf of the Shenandoah Valley Partnership, welcome to the Valley. Come to the Valley and see the Valley. It's a very, very unique place. I travel literally all over the world frequently, and every time I come back to the Valley, I'm reminded of the beauty of the Valley and the wonderful people that we have here. So we do, when Jay brings folks, we take flying in the Beech 18, or we'll go to the next one.
Yes.
And what we have here is what we affectionately refer to as Miss Virginia. DC-3 built in '44 that we purchased in 1990. You can actually see we're doing a, not sure if you can see the detail, but we're doing a wing pool at the moment. It's to do inspection on the waffle plates and on the attach points.
And when you're in this plane, and we've been extraordinarily fortunate to be in it a number of times. We've hosted a number of parties. You have hosted a number of parties with us. That it is a phenomenal plane. It was originally designated as a cargo plane, correct? A C-47 by the Douglas Aircraft Company. And it's been converted to sort of the DC, which was the commercial aircraft standard by Douglas at that time. Same plane.
Yeah, same plane.
Different designations because one's military and they're going to change things and so forth. Yeah.
Same thing. So same airplane. So the DC-3. The DC-3 was the airplane, one of the 5 reasons why the Allies won the war. It was the first airplane to make commercial aviation economically viable, and 15,000 of them built. Incredibly simple airplane, and I've got 1,000 hours flying the airplane. A ton of time of that is instructing guys. There's nothing like a DC-3.
And this one was also, I've got to say this, was also at Normandy for the 75th anniversary.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I know. We flew over the.
I've seen the video of them flying over Normandy.
Flew over the Channel and then flew over
Amazing.
Normandy on the 75th anniversary. Really, really amazing experience.
Okay, and
finally,
let's finish with.
Yeah. So behind Jay and I is the first Air Force One, built in '48, and it was for President Eisenhower. It was his. Personal transport from 52 and 53. A lot of history, some very famous speeches that were written in the Atoms for Peace speech. He flew over the 38th parallel prior to being inaugurated, and there were lots of guys in Korea at the time. This was a very emotionally kind of charged experience for them because the commander-in-chief came over and flew over them. His promise was to exit the Korean War. Charles de Gaulle, the Queen Elizabeth, various other heads of state flew in this airplane. We bought the airplane in 2016 with the intent of doing a full restoration, and we're about halfway through. And then we intend to return it to the air show circuit, and we believe deeply that this is America's airplane, and that we are stewards of the airplane, and that it's our responsibility to both finish it and then share it with the world.
Yeah. And I can tell you that the technicians that work on this are artists. It is like a premium job, but it's a passion for them as well. And what they're doing inside is modernizing, but yet keeping the true nature of the plane as it was built. I mean, it has a lot of wood panels, which you do not put in planes now.
They're out now.
But they're out.
But
they're replacing it with material that is so similar in performance that nobody's going to know that it was any different.
Aesthetically, you will not know that it is not the original airplane, but what's behind the aesthetics is essentially modern technology.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you for hosting us.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing with the NextGen Aviators program. Really a benefit to all of us. I think it's really going to be giving to the next generation as well. And we're excited about you hearing the program, that we have something that is, I think, extremely exciting, and something that Michael, with his vision, is hoping to roll out on a bigger stage, get more companies engaged and to talk about this. So we're very excited. So it's not just all about us, but we're very glad that we have part of the solution here.
Thank you, Jay.
So thank you. I'm going to wrap it up rather than trying to go back behind the workstations. We appreciate you being with us. I hope that you have enjoyed it. It's something a little different that we are doing with this. We will go back to cooking, but we're probably, our next show in approximately 3 months or something will probably be something similar, but different. It will not be airplanes, I can say that. And so we look forward to talking with you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We hope it was fun, hope it was entertaining, and educational as well. So thanks for being with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next time.